The executive elevator at Sullivan Industries glided silently upward, carrying me to the top floor where my family waited, unaware that their world was about to change forever. I smoothed my tailored suit and smiled at my reflection in the polished doors. 10 years of waiting, planning, and building had led to this moment. My name is Emma Sullivan, though for the past decade I've been careful to keep that name out of the press. The Sullivans were Boston royalty, known for their real estate empire and cutthroat business tactics. I was the family's greatest disappointment, or so they thought. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. My family would be gathering to discuss the hostile takeover attempt that had been terrorizing them for months. Sullivan Industries stock had been steadily purchased by a mysterious holding company, and now they faced the final coup. What they didn't know was that I was behind it all. 10 years earlier, I'd sat in my father's office, fresh out of college with a business degree and innovative ideas for modernizing the company. "Dad," I'd said, spreading out my carefully prepared presentation, "we need to move into sustainable development. The market's changing, and we're falling behind." He barely glanced at my work. "Emma, honey, this is a real estate company, not a charity. Besides, the board would never accept you. You don't have the right qualifications. I have a business degree with honors. Your cousin Peter has an MBA from Harvard." He'd interrupted. "And your brother James actually understands how this business works. This isn't a place for idealistic dreams about saving the planet." I looked around his office then, at the photos of 3 generations of Sullivan men. Not a single woman among them. "So that's it. I'm not qualified because I'm not one of the boys." "Don't be dramatic," he'd sighed. "Look, we'll find you something suitable. Maybe in public relations. Something more appropriate." I'd walked out of his office that day knowing I'd never return, at least not as his daughter begging for a chance. The next time I entered Sullivan Industries, it would be as its owner. That journey began the very next day. I'd taken my trust fund, a pittance compared to what my brother and cousins received, but enough to start, and founded Green Peak Development. The name was deliberately bland, forgettable. No one connected it to Emma Sullivan. For 10 years, I built my company in secret. While my family focused on luxury high-rises and shopping malls, I specialized in sustainable urban development. Every project was carefully chosen, meticulously planned, and flawlessly executed. Green Peak's reputation grew, but I stayed in the shadows, using a series of proxies for public dealings. My family barely noticed my absence from their lives. At holiday gatherings, they'd ask vague questions about my little company, never bothering to learn what I actually did. My brother James would brag about his latest deals, while cousin Peter recited Harvard Business School theories that he barely understood. I smiled and nodded, all while systematically buying up key properties around their developments. When they wanted to expand, they'd find the land already purchased. When they sought new investors, those investors had already committed to Green Peak projects. Slowly, carefully, I was boxing them in. The first cracks appeared 3 years ago. Sullivan Industries had overextended itself, investing heavily in luxury developments just as the market turned toward sustainability. Their stock price began to slip. That's when I made my move. Through a maze of shell companies and investment vehicles, I began acquiring Sullivan Industries stock. Not enough to raise alarms at first, just steady purchases that looked like normal market activity. My father, always overconfident, dismissed the early warnings. "It's just market fluctuation," he told the board. "Our brand is untouchable." But I knew better. I'd studied every aspect of the company I'd grown up watching. I knew its strengths, its weaknesses, and most importantly, its vulnerabilities. While they were building monuments to excess, I was building a network of sustainable properties that actually made money. 6 months ago, I launched the final phase. My holding company, Sierra Vista Capital, began aggressive purchases of Sullivan Industries stock. The business media buzzed with speculation of the mysterious buyer. My family finally panicked. They tried everything to stop the takeover. Poison pill provisions, white knight investors, even attempting to dig up dirt on Sierra Vista's directors. But I planned too carefully. Every defense they mounted was anticipated and countered. Last week, Sierra Vista crossed the threshold. We now own 51% of Sullivan Industries. The takeover was complete. The board meeting today was their last attempt to maintain control. They gathered all the family members, called in their attorneys, and were prepared to fight to the bitter end. I checked my watch as the elevator approached the top floor. 8:55 a.m., right on schedule. The reception area was tense when I stepped out. The secretary, the same woman who'd worked there since I was a child, didn't recognize me. "May I help you?" Emma Sullivan for the board meeting. Her eyes widened. Several heads turned in the waiting area. "Emma?" My brother James stepped forward, frowning. "What are you doing here? This is a closed board meeting." "Actually," I smiled, "I'm here representing Sierra Vista Capital. As majority shareholder, we have some changes to discuss." The color drained from his face. "You? What?" Before he could process this, the boardroom doors opened. My father stood there, looking older than I remembered. "James, we're ready to start, Emma." "Hello, Dad. Shall we begin?" The Sullivan Industries boardroom was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood paneling, leather chairs, and an atmosphere of absolute patriarchy. As I took my seat at the table, I noticed they hadn't even bothered to update the paintings on the walls. Still all men, all Sullivans, all looking down with stern disapproval. "Perfect." My father recovered quickly, falling back on his authoritarian boardroom manner. "Emma, this is a private meeting. Whatever game you're playing." "This isn't a game," I interrupted, nodding to my attorney. She began distributing documents to the board members. Sierra Vista Capital now owns 51% of Sullivan Industries voting shares, and I am Sierra Vista's CEO. The room erupted in chaos. Cousin Peter started shouting about family loyalty. Uncle Thomas turned an alarming shade of red. My brother James just sat there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I waited for the noise to die down. "This is impossible," my father finally said. "You couldn't possibly have the resources. Green Peak Development," I said calmly, "has been extremely successful. Sustainable real estate isn't charity, Dad. It's the future." While Sullivan Industries was building monuments to the past, we were building for tomorrow. I gestured to my assistant, who began setting up a presentation. Over the past decade, Green Peak has achieved an average return on investment of 27%. Our properties are fully leased, our projects come in on budget, and our reputation in the industry is unmatched. I pause, letting that sink in. Sullivan Industries, meanwhile, has lost market share every year for the past 5 years. The board members, mostly old friends of my father, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They knew the numbers were accurate. "So yes, Dad, I did have the resources, because unlike some people in this room, I actually understand modern real estate development." "Now see here," Uncle Thomas blustered, "you can't just walk in here and—" "I can, and I have." I cut him off. "Sierra Vista Capital's ownership position is legally unassailable. We've already filed the necessary paperwork with the SEC. As of this moment, I am the new CEO of Sullivan Industries." The room fell silent. "Of course," I continued, "there will be changes. Significant ones, starting with the company's direction." I clicked to the next slide, showing Green Peak's latest development, a stunning mixed-use project that combined luxury amenities with sustainable design. This is the future of real estate, not just environmentally conscious, but profitable. The market is changing, and Sullivan Industries will change with it. I looked directly at my father, "Whether you like it or not." My brother finally found his voice. "You planned this all along, didn't you? Ever since Dad wouldn't give you a position?" "No, James. I planned this since I realized that this company would never see past its own prejudices. You all thought I wasn't qualified because I didn't fit your narrow vision of what a Sullivan should be, so I built something better." I stood up, smoothing my suit. "Now, shall we discuss the transition plan? Or would you prefer to tender your resignations immediately?" The silence in the boardroom was deafening. My father's face had gone from red to ashen, while Uncle Thomas looked like he might have a stroke. The other board members, my father's golfing buddies and business school cronies, stared at their copies of the takeover documents as if hoping the words might magically change. My father started, then stopped. For the first time in my life, William Sullivan was at a loss for words. "Impossible?" I supplied. "Shocking? Or maybe just inconvenient? Like when your daughter tried to warn you about changing market trends 10 years ago." James slammed his hand on the table. "You can't just walk in here and destroy everything our family built." "I'm not destroying anything," I replied calmly. "I'm saving it. Sullivan Industries stock has dropped 40% in 5 years. Your luxury developments are sitting half empty. Meanwhile, Green Peak's sustainable projects have waiting lists. I clicked to the next slide, showing projections for the merged companies. By combining Sullivan's resources with Green Peak's expertise and market position, we can become the leading sustainable development company in the country. But only if we act now. Uncle Thomas snorted. Sustainable development. Tree hugger nonsense. I smiled. Really? Let's look at the numbers. The next hour was a detailed presentation of market analysis, financial projections, and development plans. I'd spent months preparing this, knowing I'd need to convince not just my family, but the entire board. Green Peak's average property value has increased 180% over 5 years, I concluded. Sullivan's has dropped 15%. These aren't theories or idealistic dreams. This is business. The board members were leaning forward now, engaged despite themselves. They might be old-school developers, but they understood profits. And if we refuse, my father asked quietly, then I'll vote my shares to remove the entire board. I have the legal right to do that now. I met his eyes. But I'd rather not. Despite everything, I believe in this company's potential. I just don't believe in how it's been run. Cousin Peter, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. What about us? The family? That depends on you, I replied. Those who can adapt and contribute meaningfully can stay. Those who can't, I shrugged. Generous severance packages are ready. You fire your own family? James demanded. Like you all excluded your own family? I countered. This isn't personal, James. It's business. Isn't that what Dad always taught us? My father flinched at that, recognizing his own words thrown back at him. You have until the end of the day to decide. I continued. Stay and work under new leadership, or take the severance. Either way, Sullivan Industries will be transformed. I gathered my papers, nodding to my attorney. We'll reconvene at 5 o'clock for your decisions. As I stood to leave, my father's voice stopped me. Emma, wait. I turned back. He looked older suddenly, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. Did I really drive you to this? For a moment, I felt a flicker of the old pain. The years of dismissal, of being patted on the head and told to know my place. No, Dad, you taught me something valuable. He taught me that if they won't give you a seat at the table, you build your own table. Then you buy theirs. The next few hours were chaos. Word spread through the building that Emma Sullivan, the forgotten daughter, was now in charge. My phone exploded with messages from family members, ranging from angry accusations to sudden attempts at reconciliation. I ignored them all, working from my temporary office down the hall from the boardroom. There was so much to do. Press releases to prepare, transition teams to organize, restructuring plans to finalize. At 4:30, my assistant announced a visitor, my mother. She stepped into the office hesitantly, looking around as if seeing it for the first time. It's different, she said. You've changed it already. The dark wood paneling was gone, replaced by glass and light. Modern art hung where the old portraits had been. The whole building will be renovated, I said. Solar panels, green roof, efficient systems. We'll make it a model of sustainable architecture. She sat down across from me. Your father, he's struggling with this. I know. He really thought he was protecting you, you know. This business, it's brutal. I laughed softly. Yes, I know exactly how brutal it is. I just proved that. She studied me for a long moment. You're not going to back down, are you? Would you if you'd spent 10 years building something just to prove them wrong? No, she smiled suddenly. I wouldn't. Maybe that's where you get it from. At 5 o'clock, the board reconvened. The room was quieter now, the initial shock replaced by resignation, or in some cases, calculation. My father spoke first. We've discussed your proposal. The board has voted to accept the changes, with conditions. I raised an eyebrow. Conditions? We want to be part of the transformation, he said, not just swept aside. Some of us might have been wrong about a few things. Coming from William Sullivan, this was practically an apology. I'm listening. James has agreed to head our traditional luxury division, but under Green Peak's sustainability guidelines. Peter wants to learn sustainable development. He's asked to work directly under your team. I nodded slowly. It was more than I'd expected. And you, Dad? He took a deep breath. I'd like to stay on as chairman emeritus. Advisory only. It's time. It's time for new leadership. I studied their faces, my family, my former opponents, now potentially my employees. There was fear there and resentment, but also something else. Respect. Agreed, I said finally, with one condition of my own. From now on, positions in this company will be earned on merit, not name or gender. Everyone proves themselves, including family. Even me, James asked quietly. Especially you? I smiled. Show me what you can do when you actually have to work for it. The transition wasn't smooth. Change never is, especially in family companies. But over the next year, Sullivan Industries transformed. Our stock price doubled as investors recognized our new direction. Projects that had been stalling suddenly filled with tenants eager for sustainable luxury. James, surprisingly, thrived under the new structure. Without the safety net of family privilege, he actually developed real skills. Peter's Harvard theories evolved into practical innovations once he had to prove himself. And my father, well, that took longer. But 6 months after the takeover, he stopped by my office late one evening. I found this, he said, placing a familiar document on my desk. It was my original presentation from 10 years ago, the one he dismissed without reading. You kept it. I was surprised. I read it last night, every word. He sat down heavily. You were right. About all of it, the market changes, the sustainability trends, everything. That must have been hard to admit. He nodded. Almost as hard as admitting I was wrong about you. You didn't just build a successful company, Emma. You built a better one than I ever did. I looked at my father, really looked at him, and saw not the tyrannical businessman who dismissed me, but an aging man facing his own failures. The company's still here, I said softly. It's just different. Better. Yes, he agreed. Like you. 1 year to the day after the takeover, we held a company-wide meeting. The renovated building gleamed with sustainable technology. Our projects were winning awards. The Sullivan name had come to mean innovation, not just tradition. I stood at the podium, looking out at the faces of employees old and new. My family sat in the front row, not because of their name, but because they'd earned their places. A year ago, many people thought Sullivan Industries was stuck in the past. That we couldn't change, couldn't adapt, couldn't see the future. They were wrong. I gestured to our latest project renderings. We're not just changing buildings. We're changing how people think about development, about sustainability, about success. And we're proving that the most sustainable thing a company can do is evolve. After the meeting, I returned to my office, the same one where my father had dismissed my ideas a decade ago. But now the view was different. Solar panels glinted on neighboring buildings. Green roofs softened the urban landscape. Change was visible everywhere. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Congratulations on the company's transformation. Would you be interested in discussing a merger? I smiled, remembering another meeting room, another takeover. Maybe it was time for the next evolution. After all, I hadn't spent 10 years learning to build things just to stop now. Send me the proposal, I typed back. But remember, I only deal with companies that are looking toward the future. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right so completely that they have no choice but to work for you. And sometimes, just sometimes, that leads to something better than revenge. Real change.